This is the Goggler Podcast. Bahir and Uma with you, and we're kicking off 2024 with a brand new Marvel Studios series. This one is called Echo, and it's based on a character that we first met in the Hawkeye series, which was almost 3 years ago. 2021 it came out.
Yeah, at the end, right? Christmas 2021.
So this is Marvel trying something new, if you believe the press. So this comes under, I'm going to call it a Marvel imprint, which is what the comic book world would call it. And it's an existing imprint in the comics. It's called Marvel Spotlight. And it's been around for decades. And Marvel Spotlight were these standalone comic book stories where Marvel would experiment and introduce team-ups and new characters. And these were often characters that didn't have their own space within the Marvel book universe.
Yeah.
Echo was announced all the way back in 2021, right after Hawkeye, that she was going to get her own TV series. But with all of the shakeups that have been happening, it seems like Echo has been placed under the Marvel Spotlight banner, and all of its episodes are being released at the same time. And I think this is very, very strategic. I think, one, it kind of displaces Echo from everything else that's going on within the multiverse and all of that nonsense.
Yep.
Allowing people to binge watch the series means that they will get a full taste of who the character is and what the show is about, and not actually drop off if it was a week-to-week release. And I also think it's Marvel's way of getting back into the Netflix-style, street-level, gritty superhero storytelling.
Yeah.
I say Netflix style. It was still Marvel producing it. They just shoved it on Netflix at the time because they didn't have their own streaming service. But it's the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist Defenders type thing.
When you interviewed director Sydney Freeland, she describes it as the people in her world get shot, get killed, die, and break bones, right? And I think that's kind of what the Netflix Marvel shows did and treated their characters with. Iron Fist could die. A lot of people hope he did, but he could. There was real danger. It's not just, someone gets punched by the Hulk and then he just goes off screen and, you just hope he recovers. It's none of that.
Also historic because it's Marvel's first indigenous native character on screen. Alakwa Cox, who plays Echo. Echo is also deaf. And so there's a lot of things happening in this show.
She's also an amputee, sorry.
She's also an amputee. And yet none of it kind of threatens to overwhelm the story of the series. We've seen the first 3 episodes. It's a 5-episode show. And yet it feels very well executed. And all of these character traits serve the series and the story incredibly well.
All those things I mentioned have come through purely as a character thing. Her being an amputee doesn't become a defining moment for her. It isn't a defining character trait for her. In fact, half the time, let me take that back. 90% of the time, you're not going to remember that she's an amputee. It's just a thing that shows up once in a while. And I love that. I also love like you said, we've seen the first 3 episodes. There is a real big emphasis on the indigenous, what's the word I'm looking for? Culture and their approach to mysticism and magic, which I love.
Oh, the beginning of the show, which does this whole thing, which takes you deep into indigenous mysticism, is absolutely fantastic. It reminded me of all the things I loved about reading these sorts of comic books, because as a kid, I would be like, oh, what is this? This is a new kind of magic, and there's some supernatural stuff happening. I mean, we see hints of it even in the new season of What If with the Kahori storyline. And so it feels like Marvel is going all in on this. And I'm really excited about it because it's different, it's new, it feels fresh.
Yes, and not only that, it's interesting, right? It's a side of world culture that we as Malaysians don't hear about very often. It's the same reaction I had with Killers of the Flower Moon. It's this idea that, these are a new group of people that I as a Malaysian have not been told about. And I'm very excited for that.
I don't know their story.
Yeah. And that coming in a superhero genre is very exciting because there are very few times you can tell yourself, I've not heard this story before.
There are 5 episodes of the show. Yet again, we've seen 3 of them. We are calling it the superhero genre, but the thing I appreciate most about this show, after watching 3 episodes, is that Echo is not a hero.
Yes.
And unlike what we've seen in other movies and TV shows, there doesn't seem to be a need to make her a hero. Because in this story, which picks up directly after the events of Hawkeye, Echo is on the run. She goes back to her hometown, but her mission is to take down the Kingpin and take over from the Kingpin.
Yeah.
That's her mission. She doesn't want to be a superhero. She doesn't want to take down the Kingpin because he's a bad guy. She wants to take over. She's like, it's my time, bitches.
I'm the prodigal daughter, right? This is my bag now. And I think it's weird because it is the opposite of the Punisher. The Punisher was doing bad things because he was a good guy or for good reasons. In this instance, Maya Lopez, Echo, is doing bad things because she's a bad person. Her reasons for doing these things, like you said, is purely personal. This isn't I'm trying to free my city from corrupt police officers. No. She's blowing things up because she wants to get the Kingpin's attention, because she wants to take the Kingpin down.
She is a criminal. And I honestly hope that doesn't change, because I think these are the kinds of storytelling risks that I want the MCU to take.
Especially because Echo is a miniseries.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of baggage that they have to deal with later on.
I don't want to see her team up with Daredevil or Hawkeye. I want to see her beat them down.
I want a villain series. A villain series where the villain is a villain and not the villain has a heart of gold.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No,
that's
thank
done.
you.
Yeah. I've got enough good people.
Exactly.
It's okay. Yeah.
I think there's real character to be explored in these sorts of situations. And the comic books have done it for years. And they've done it for decades. And we've enjoyed reading those sorts of comics. Even when we were reading those comics, we didn't need for there to be a hero for us to be able to relate to that character or like that character.
Yep.
And I think what the writers of Echo do very well is make Maya Lopez a likable character, despite the fact that she is a criminal and a bad person.
I mean, I think likable is a strong word. I think relatable is a better word, right? You're on her side. You may not like her, but you're on her side.
If only because the Kingpin's an even bigger asshole.
But
to be fair, he too is likable and relatable.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The one thing Netflix did very well with those shows is they made the characters all relatable. The Daredevil, just like in the comics, is a flawed man who can be beaten and can have his ribs broken and has to recover the next day. They're not Thor. He doesn't just bounce back, right? The Kingpin is, yes, he's a villain, but you also get it.
Also, if you watch that first season of Daredevil, there is enough time spent on both Matt Murdock's origin story as well as Wilson Fisk's origin story.
Yeah.
And so you really get to see both of their motivations. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful things about Echo, was that the motivations of all of these characters are there and obvious and very well drawn. And I think
yes,
that's what'll have you hooked into this series. That and this just fantastic wonder in the first episode, which is some of the best action I've seen in the MCU in a very long, because mostly it is CGI, bish bosh, whatever, right? And this is street level. Like when Maya Lopez walks into that fight, it begins in confusion because she doesn't know what is going on. And then she gets her bearings and it becomes kick-ass.
There's a moment when that fight starts where the camera sort of turns to her accomplices and you see in Maya Lopez that she's not entirely sure if she's down for this. She knows why she was there. She was there to become an extra hand if things got out of hand, essentially. But there's a longer than a split second where Maya Lopez is just standing there with her mouth open going, what is this? I don't know if I want any part of this. And then someone pulls a gun. Then her sort of lifetime of training kicks in and she just kicks ass. There's a real respect treated to not just the fight, but the reasons for fighting, the reactions to seeing a fight in front of you, and whether or not you jump in or not.
Same thing with this fantastic sequence at the end of the, I want to say, third episode at the bowling alley. Was that episode 3?
Oh, yes.
It's a little hostage situation, and the way it plays out is not what you expect. There isn't a big hero moment. Everything is a subversion of that expectation, and it's really good.
I don't want to say it, but this is how excited I was when I saw the first couple episodes of Secret Invasion.
To be fair, there are only 2 more episodes of this that we
They
haven't
can't
seen.
screw it up that badly, can they?
We're hoping they don't fuck it up.
Yeah, it's only 2 more. Yeah. It's a really strong show. I'm really looking forward to it.
But you know what? I think if we take a minute to talk about the fiasco, the behind the scenes stuff that has been going on with the MCU and Disney and their rejigging of strategy, etc., I think given everything they're going through, they would have shelved this if they felt it wasn't good. I don't think they were trying to do an Aquaman or a Blue Beetle where they release it quietly and then hope nobody notices before they reboot everything and start again. I think they felt like they had a genuine product on their hand. And this was something good. A lot of work had clearly gone into it. I mean, it's one of the first shows, other than something like Reservation Dogs, I would say it's one of the first major mainstream shows with an all indigenous cast, with the exception of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. But all of that, I think, kind of plays into a quality product. And I think that's why they released it when they did. And I think that's why they released it the way they did, by dropping all 5 episodes at the same time. Also, using it to kick off the Marvel Spotlight banner.
If anything, I'm more interested in the Marvel Spotlight banner thing. Only because if it means that they are able to take these wild swing at things, and even if it's just 5 episodes, right? Even if they do a 5-episode Ghost Rider thing, that sounds cool. That sounds like, yeah, like a part of me almost feels like She-Hulk should have been a Marvel Spotlight, where they could have gone like really out of left field, right? The whole thing with the Feige robot thing, the jumping through the fourth wall thing. I think if it was a Marvel Spotlight thing, I think a lot of people would have gone, okay, cool. This isn't necessarily canon. This is them just having a bit of fun, and that's okay.
And the good thing about having something like Marvel Spotlight, which they do in the comics all the time as well, is that you can make it canon whenever you want.
You just bring it in.
I mean, it is still considered canon. It's just outside of continuity. So
Yeah.
I think the idea behind it is that you don't have to know what's going on with the multiverse saga
Yeah.
or the Kang saga or whatever they're going to call it now. You don't have to understand what's happening there to appreciate this. Sure, Kingpin's there. He's also in Hawkeye. Daredevil may show up. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's just like in the comics. Sometimes Spider-Man shows up, kicks some ass, and then swings away. He's just a character they get to play with. And I think that's the kind of stories I want more of.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they did like a Daredevil thing and then Spidey shows up?
I want a proper Ghost Rider series. I was very, very excited by what they did with Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought that was pulled off really well.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
He was good, and it worked, but more Ghost Rider, please. Get Nicolas Cage back, have Johnny Blaze hand it down to someone else.
Oh, I saw a rumor that said the new Daredevil TV show is going to be based off of the Devil's Reign comic run, the Chip Zdarsky one, the one that's happening now, or the one that's just finished now. And if they do that, good lordy. That's, I mean, Kingpin's a big part of that. Shit, Spider-Man's a pretty decent part of that too. But anyway, no, yeah, Echo's great.
No,
Sorry.
yeah, I really enjoyed the first 3 episodes of Echo. I thought it was very well done. I was very apprehensive going into this because I didn't think we needed it. I mean, I liked the character in Hawkeye, and I was like, oh, yep, she's great. Who is this person? Why do I care? Why does she need her own series? I am so glad that they've proved me wrong, because from the first episode, I was all in. I was like, oh, wow, this is a pretty cool character.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agree.
All 5 episodes of Echo are now streaming on Disney Plus Hotstar. Check it out. Let us know what you think. We think it's one of the best things that Marvel Studios has done in a very long time. Actually, season 2 of What If was very, very good as well, and we need to review that on a podcast, but we'll get to that.
Also, don't forget to head over to our website and our YouTube page to check out conversations with the director of Echo, as well as the executive producer, Richie Palmer.
Yeah, we talk about some stuff. We talk about Marvel Spotlight, and we talk about some of the ins and outs of her use of silences. And this is something that you will notice from the very get-go of the series. Obviously, because Maya Lopez is deaf, the director uses that as part of her storytelling, and it's some of the cleverest use of silences that we've seen in a TV show or a movie. It's just great stuff. Check out Echo. Let us know what you think. You know how to reach out. Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my. Also WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. If you drop us a line on any one of those channels, we will send you a link to join our Discord server where you can chat with us in real time. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.